can go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
Joshua, do you do any preamble, or you want me to just
Yeah,
take
yeah, I
it?
do a little preamble for those who may not be super familiar. But first off, I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. I think today is our 20th session. Guys, I did remember and keep track. I'm learning now. All right, so today we have a guest here who I can say he's foremost the person that I was paying attention to do a lot of AI, and he's actually how I found Julia, because a lot of stuff that he has had is like next level. Um, a bit of his background, he has worked in some of the, top places in the world where people are shifting and making impact on at institutional levels. Dave has been, you know, had almost 20 years experience, I would say, in the AI space, or I would say machine learning space, algorithmic learning space. And today he is here to share his proven AVID framework, AVID or AVID. I don't know how you would pronounce it, Dave. Framework, and it's an exact system that he's used throughout his professional career to create a self-reinforcing automation flywheel, if you so choose to say it. So this is going to be a hands-on session, and we will be starting everything with Dave presenting an amazing and very interactive presentation. We'll be following that with a Q&A session. We'll also have a session with breakout rooms where you all will be interacting with each other. And from there, we'll get a little bit deeper into some discussion, see where your minds are at, um, see what you've been pulling from the session today. And I don't want to take up too much more time. So without further ado, I present you Dave Shapiro, and yeah, let's get the show on the road.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Joshua. It's been good. I've been friends with Julia for more than a year now. In fact, we were brainstorming when she wanted to leave her last company, and we're like, well, what are we doing? And I said, we are the first movers, and we want to teach the first movers. So here we are with First Movers AI. A little bit of background for myself. I started dabbling with machine learning back in 2009, and my professional career, my day job at the time, for the next 15 years was IT infrastructure, cloud infrastructure, and automation. So that's my sweet spot. And yeah, without further ado, let me go ahead and get my presentation going. Let me share the whole screen. There we go. All right. Everyone see this okay? And by the way, I'm going to be minimizing anything, so I won't be seeing any screens. If you do have questions, feel free to go ahead and write them down or jot them in chat. But let me go ahead and just introduce the agenda for today. So we're going over the AVID framework, and the agenda will be first I'll give you a presentation, then we'll do an open discussion and Q&A. This is just to make sure that everyone, understands and has a chance to socialize their questions, concerns, any personal stories. It's very open-ended. It's not just a Q&A. Then we'll do the workshop, as Joshua mentioned. And don't worry, I'll go over and give you some rules of the road for the workshop, and then we'll end with a sharing and synthesis. And the key is you don't have to share what you did in the workshop. It can just be whatever stood out to you from the entire presentation today, the entire webinar. So with that being said, the AVID framework stands for assess, validate, implement, and duplicate. And this is an automation feedback loop that you can implement in pretty much any business at any level of the business. And it's specifically around automation. So to get started, let me tell you a story about how this whole thing got started for me. So this was way back in 2014 as still a baby engineer, more than 10 years ago. I was working at Cisco Systems, and the lead architect on my team came to me, and he'd sent me a screenshot of one of our SAN storage arrays. He said, "Dave, we're running out of storage, and look at how much of this is snapshots." And so, just for a little bit of reference, the engineers that we supported that used our infrastructure could take snapshots of all of their servers and applications, which was a moment in time backup that they could revert back to. Well, the thing is, snapshots are horribly inefficient for storage. So we were using many, many, many terabytes of very expensive storage arrays on these backups, which were just sitting there not being used. And he said, we got to do something about this, figure it out. And that's it. That's the only directive he gave me. So what I did was I went through and looked at these snapshots that were being taken by the engineers that we supported, and their username, whoever took the snapshot, was prepended to the snapshot name. So I said, okay, well it's easy enough to figure out who took this snapshot. So let me just email them. So I tried a couple people and I emailed, said, hey, you've got this snapshot. It's 250 gigabytes. It's taken up a lot of expensive storage. Can you delete it? And 9 times out of 10, the engineer's like, oh, yeah, I don't use that anymore, or I didn't even realize it was there, or I had no idea how big it was. And so after seeing that pattern, I was like, okay, nobody needs these snapshots, but I can't just go through and delete them entirely on my own because then, our engineers will get mad at us if they are using them. And I'm not going to sit here and email hundreds of engineers every week. That's going to be a huge, huge waste of time. So then what I did was I sat down and figured out this was the first automation project I ever did. I sat down and I said, okay, well, I can talk to all of these systems with PowerShell. So PowerShell is a scripting language. It's similar to Python, but it's a Microsoft native scripting language. And so I figured out how to write these scripts to, pull the names of all the snapshots and separate out the email or the username and then use the username to find the email address and then take all that information and email the users, the engineers that we supported and say, hey, you have this snapshot. It's this big and, could you delete it? And it took me a few weeks to figure it out because I had learned Python for some, data science and stuff, but I hadn't done anything at this level because, you got to authenticate to email servers. You've got to authenticate to multiple other infrastructure components. But then, after a couple weeks of figuring that out, I hit send and I watched it go through and it said, pulling this list and it, pulled hundreds and I mean thousands of snapshots. And I had little output. So in my little console, it was shooting off emails saying, emailing Dale and emailing Jen and emailing whoever else saying, you've got this snapshot. And I had all the information in the email, the name of the snapshot, the name of the server, how big it was, and just with instructions saying, hey, it's, X old. If you're not using it, please delete it because it's taking up valuable space. And then immediately, because I was watching my infrastructure, I saw a bunch of delete instructions come through. And so all the snapshots started getting deleted. And we saved, I don't know, tens of thousands worth of dollars worth of SAN storage space with just a single script. And I was like, well, hell, that was efficient. And so that really set me on this loop that I did for literally the rest of my career. Was this AVID framework that I'm about to teach you guys. But the point is, a couple weeks to automate this script and send it out, and then guess what? It ran once a week, every week for the entire time that I was at Cisco, and probably kept running after I left. It was a scheduled job, and so instead of dozens or hundreds of hours of me going through and manually deleting things or manually following up, it was something that I set and forget. And so then that freed me up with lots of other time to do other stuff. So that's the storage, or the story rather. So what I want to talk about is the overarching principle. Why do we do this? Why do we do this automation feedback loop? Why do we automate things and what's the whole overarching philosophy of the AVID framework? So first, I save myself 5 hours per week by writing a script or writing an automation. Now, of course, you can just write scripts, with Claude Code or GPT or whatever else. You can just write Python scripts or PowerShell scripts or Perl scripts. It doesn't matter. You can do that, but you can also call these AIs that give you even more automation capabilities and allow you to even more dynamically choose, okay, here's the path that we take to automate this thing. Or, you can even have an AI where, it might read a log and say, okay, based on what we're seeing, this is the next script to kick off. There's all kinds of ways you could implement this, but save yourself 5 hours a week, then take that additional 5 hours to save another 10 hours. Now you've got 15 hours a week back already. Do that to do another 15 hours. Now you've got 30 hours a week back, so on and so forth. Rinse and repeat until you're literally doing several thousand hours worth of work per week every week, and all you're doing then is watching the automation and maintaining the automation. That is how I got so big and so high in my career. Of course, there's other stuff. There's stuff that you can't automate per se, but when you automate a lot of the boring stuff, you have, I mean, you're leveraging your own expertise into infinity. So that's why we do this. That's the appeal. The core KPI is man hours saved. Now, the framework itself: assess, validate, implement, and duplicate. The cycle that I went through is first assess. And this is, what is my next automation target? And most importantly, what is within the capability of being automated? What do I know how to automate? And this is why you have to start small. So you just say, what can be automated? What do I want to automate? What's the low hanging fruit? Next is validate. You prioritize based on how much time it's going to save you. So in the case of a lot of the work that I did, I looked at how often I needed to do a thing or how often something needed to happen. So the repetition. I also looked at how much time it was going to save me. Now, in some cases, the automation was one off. So a good example of this was uh, partway through my time at Cisco, we rolled out a whole bunch of big changes to servers, and then the servers started blue screening, which blue screening means that they crashed. So we ran some updates. The updates were not compatible with our storage arrays. And so we had hundreds and hundreds of servers that we couldn't roll back, that we had to update with a new patch manually. And so what I did was I spent all week, rather than doing it manually, because I calculated it out, it takes 45 minutes per server, and we've got hundreds of servers. That's going to take me weeks to do manually. Meanwhile, they're going to be crashing every now and then. So I was like, we need something that I can do faster than all that. So my one off was, okay, instead of spending 5 weeks doing this, let me spend 1 week automating it and then hit go. At the end of that week, Friday morning, I come in, I kick it off, I check on it, it's running, it runs through the weekend. By Monday morning, everything has been fully patched, no more crashes. So when you validate something, it might be something that you run every day, every week, every month. You look at how long it's going to take, and then you say, is it worth it to automate this? Or it might be a one-off. If it's a really big project, a migration, an upgrade, something like that, then you can say, okay, well, how long will it take me to automate this? And will it justify itself? Part number three, you implement it. You spend the days, weeks, months, whatever it is, whatever it happens to be, whatever value stream. In my case, as an infrastructure guy, I was concerned with servers and applications at the hardware level up. But there's all kinds of business value streams that you might be automating, whether it's HR stuff, whether it is legal stuff, doesn't matter, can be any of the above. Once you implement it and it's successful, then you take the lessons learned. You say, I had to learn to use this new API, or I had to learn to use this new tool. Now every time you do this loop, your capabilities expand because you add a new skill, or you solve a new problem, or you learn something new. So the sphere of what you can automate gets bigger. And so then you duplicate that success and you go back to the assess. You say, okay, now that I can automate more stuff and I have more free time, what's the next thing I'm going to automate? And you just rinse and repeat endlessly until you've automated as much as you can possibly automate. By the way, with the rate that AI is improving, by the time you finish one cycle, there's probably going to be new stuff that the AI can now help you automate, or it can be even easier because, for instance, OpenAI just released their agent builder. So now, if there's something that you've just been waiting around to say, hey, we need an agent for this, guess what? Now the next thing that you automate is what were we waiting for agents for? Now go do that. Okay, so let's slow down and look at each individual step. Assess, survey the landscape. The primary question is, what can be automated? So there's a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself when you're at this kind of scouting phase. What is within the realm of possibility for automation? Just what is the technology capable of? Next is, what kinds of tasks are we capable of automating? That's looking at your own skills. What do we know how to do, or what do we want to learn how to do? And then you look at it physically or practically, what is actually in your business or your infrastructure. What interfaces, APIs, systems, what has hooks that you can communicate with? Today, fortunately, almost everything has an API that you can talk to. Back in the day when I got started, a lot of stuff had only web interfaces, and they were all different kinds of things. There's webhooks, there's RESTful APIs, there's SOAP APIs, there's all kinds of stuff. Today, they usually make it a lot easier to talk to. Back then, sometimes we had to write SSH scripts, which was fun. Lots and lots of regex. You generally don't have to do that anymore. It's weird. I talked to automation engineers today who don't know how to use regex, and I'm like, wow, you're lucky. So, anyways, next, then you look, you another kind of silo that you look at is you say, okay, based on the automation tools that I have, whether it's just Python and LLMs, or if you have other platforms and tools like N8N, or if this then that, whatever platforms you have, you say what plugins do they offer? What automation capabilities do they offer? And then you cobble it all together and you say, okay, what are we targeting? What's going to give us the most ROI? And remember, the ROI that you're looking for is man hours saved. So it's fundamentally a matching problem. You match your tasks, so this is the business stuff that actually has to get done, with the automation. And so you figure out where those overlap, and that is the assess level. The next level is validate. So this is the expected return on investment. The primary question you're asking is how much time will this save? How many hours per week could be saved? What bottlenecks or manual handoffs are required? Does the task, oh, here, let me add my cursor highlighter. There we go. So you can see where I'm looking. Does the task change too much over time? So this is something that I had to address, because sometimes the input is like a form, right? And the form could be, whether it's a legal form or a request form or whatever it is, things can be misspelled, or there might be different versions of the form. And how do you handle all those error exceptions? Back then, I had to do everything manually looking for clues with regex. Today, you just hand the form to an LLM and say, interpret this form and standardize it into JSON for me. Um, then there's a few other options too. You say, okay, is this something that I'm going to run once? Is it something I'm going to automate cyclically? Or am I going to create a self-service portal for this? There's all kinds of different ways that you can deploy it. But the idea is you want to get it off your plate. If at all possible, if you're the one responsible for the automation, you give it to your end users, you give it to your customers, you give it to someone else. If you, because the more you empower them, you say, hey, look, don't talk to me anymore, go use this tool that I built. And so then all you're responsible for is using the tool, not doing things manually. If you can do that, then you say, okay, instead of me manually deploying these servers for my engineers, because this is one of the biggest projects I did, was I created a tool that they just uploaded their server file, and then my tool just deployed the server for them automatically, assuming that they had, the privileges to do so. And it deployed it for them, deleted the leftover files, named everything correctly, and then said, "Here's the keys," and I didn't need to touch it. And they loved it, because guess what? Internal end users and customers alike, they love self-service stuff. They do not want to wait for approvals. They don't want to wait for you. And guess what? You love it because they're not bothering you anymore. So the mantra here is prioritize your automation targets first by easy wins, so that's low-hanging fruit, and then save 5 hours, or starting off, saving 5 hours every week is worthwhile. If it only saves an hour or two every week, that's probably worthwhile. But then as you get better at automation, as you get better at finding these things and your skills expand, then you can say, okay, how do I save myself hundreds of hours every week or every month? How do I do the things that we have just been ignoring because it wasn't possible to do up until this point? That is where you start getting into the higher levels of the AVID feedback loop. So then implement. This is the actual deployment phase. Primary goal, automate one thing and automate it well. Challenge yourself, challenge your team. It's still fine if you try and automate something and it doesn't work. That's one thing that a lot of businesses and a lot of business leaders and a lot of individual contributors, all of them, they say, well, that's not possible to automate, and then they don't even try. Or they say, well, we're probably going to fail, so we're not even going to try. Or we know where the bottlenecks are, so we're not even going to try. And I say, heck with that, try. See how far you can get. Because here's the thing, partial automation still counts. And I need to emphasize this, is because just because something is not end-to-end, fully soup to nuts automated doesn't mean that you did not succeed. You learned, and you still are saving yourself time. Even if you can only automate half the process, because I had this conversation many, many times where they're like, well, we can't automate the whole thing. I was like, I don't care. I'm saving myself 2 hours. I don't care if the rest of it still takes 45 minutes. It's taking only 45 minutes instead of 2 hours and 45 minutes. That's still worth it. Building yourself, if you build the automation tools and the only person who uses them is you, then you still built yourself a better screwdriver, right? Like imagine this, you're trying to build a house. Do you want to do that with a manual hammer or do you want to do it with a pneumatic nail gun? The pneumatic nail gun is going to help you do it way faster and it's going to save your elbows. It's not going to build the house for you, but it's going to save you a ton of time and energy. The same thing applies to your own automation tools. So then, as you're going, find the edges of what is possible and what is not possible. Knowing what you can't do and why will save you time in the future. That's why I say just go ahead and try. Because if you say the AI is not good enough for this yet, or Python is not smart enough for this, or I'm not smart enough for X, Y, or Z, you know. But as you're going, you build up that tribal knowledge. This is where you get the really big payoff. Eventually, if particularly if you're an individual contributor, you will probably know how to automate more than anyone else. That is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because you're indispensable and now you're the master automator. However, it's a curse because then you're the only one who can do the automation. And so then the thermodynamic gradient makes everything flow to you. So one thing to do here is force other people to do the automation, assuming that you have a large enough team, so that that way you say, hey, I know how to do this, but I need to do this other thing, so now you do this. And if you get stuck, I will give you some guidance. And then documentation. I had a rule of thumb that if I got asked a question more than once, I wrote a KB article for it. If I got asked a one-off, I didn't write a KB article for it. But the second that someone asked me the same question twice, I documented it. So then I'm like, read the documents, and make sure that you have good documentation. That's kind of the implication there. And then test for robustness every step of the way. This is just it's a lesson that everyone who ever codes or does any kind of automation or pipeline learns is that, oh, hey, if you put in a number instead of a letter here, it'll break. Or if you do something wrong, or if the form isn't complete, it'll break. So you need to make sure that you're testing for acceptance criteria and gating and all that stuff. You'll learn that intuitively, but the key thing is just be aware that the more steps you string together without those checks and feedbacks, the more fragile it becomes. But again, once you document it all out and you find those failure points, reinforce those failure points, make sure you check ahead of time. This is stuff that all kinds of software developers, whether it's front end or back end, already know. But if you're focusing on automation, you're not just looking at software, you're looking at hardware and other services and stuff that's across the internet and what other devices, whatever it happens to be that you're automating, you're going to touch a lot of different sources. So then the mantra here is it might take a few hours, a few days, or even a few weeks to figure out an automation target. It's almost always worth it, even if it fails. Learning what you can't do will save you time in the future. This is one thing that when I was first consulting with artificial intelligence, I said, you know what? Knowing what doesn't work is just as valuable. Why? Because there's so many things that don't work out there, but you don't know until you try. And then finally, duplicate, rinse and repeat. It's that simple. Take the lessons learned and apply them again. What worked well? What didn't? What new capabilities did we gain? What didn't work and why? And what new possibilities have we unlocked? Because the thing is sometimes there's going to be a barrier. There's going to be a bottleneck or a barrier or something that you just don't know or don't understand, and you're going to beat your head against the wall for weeks or months on a problem, but then suddenly you'll figure it out. You'll say, aha, now I know how to write an expect template, or now I know how to write regex, and now I know how to, call this LLM, or I know how to do this template thing. And then you might feel guilty for just copying, pasting one work to another, but you know what? If it works and you learn from it, then you get that snowball effect. That's the compounding returns that really makes this work is you say, aha, I figured out one thing over here. Now I'm going to copy paste that thing over here, see if it works, see if this approach works, adapt it, and then you just keep organically expanding until you have automated everything that is just physically possible to automate. Um, The mantra here is we're building up a tribal knowledge base and expanded our institutional competence. So institutional competence is the opposite of what I call institutional incompetence. So who has worked somewhere where the default reaction was that can't be done? I don't know how to do it. It's not worth doing. People that just roll their eyes and snort and scoff and are just don't ever try. That is institutional incompetence. So what you're building up is institutional competence, which is that can-do attitude. When you work at places like Duke University or Cisco Systems, then we don't know how to do that is not an option. The only option is if someone is capable of doing it in the world, you figure out how to do it. And that is the attitude of institutional competence. And you build that up with this rinse and repeat cycle because you get better and better and better at it, either as an individual or as a team. So, with all that being said, there's a lot of cautions here. The biggest caution overall is do not eat the whole elephant. This is why I said automate one thing and automate it well. You're not going to automate an entire job. You're not going to automate an entire department. You're going to automate specific value streams or specific work outcomes. Your default thing might be saying like, oh, well, I'm going to automate away, Joe the developer or Susan the call center operator. That's the role-centric thinking. But what you have to think of is process-centric or outcome-centric thinking. And what this means is that you're thinking, okay, I have a whole bunch of different processes that I'm responsible for, whether it's processing tax forms or working tickets or whatever it happens to be. Each one of those is a process. And then as far as the business is concerned, there's outcomes. There's what is the result? How does this help the business? Whether it is a bill gets paid or, a billable, bills come in or we save server space or servers don't go down, whatever it happens to be, there is a specific outcome that you're looking for. And so it pays dividends to say, what is the particular outcome we're looking for and what are all the contributing factors to that? Now we have a few other kind of ways of thinking about this. Think in terms of outcomes, not people. So that's what I was just talking about. Identify process boundaries. So a process boundary is a handoff point. A process boundary is saying, my job here is done. Let's use a loading dock as an example. The truck driver drives the truck to the dock. The truck driver is not responsible, if, at least in larger organizations, the truck driver is not responsible for unloading the truck or getting the inventory into the warehouse. That's the dock worker's responsibility. Digital stuff has the same exact, should have the same exact process boundaries where you say, okay, the email got to your inbox because I'm the email server admin. It's not my responsibility to read the email. That's an example of how there might be a process boundary. The same thing applies to HR department, legal department, IT department. Every single department should have relatively clear boundaries. Work with value streams. So the value stream is a concept from business science where you say, okay, what is actually adding value to the business? Is it, increasing your brand? Is it increasing your reach? Is it increasing your sales? Is it decreasing costs and expenses? Those are value streams. So identify what is actually moving the needle for this business. Now, for people that are buried in infrastructure, they're thinking more in terms of operational streams. So an operational stream is saying, well, I don't really know how sweeping the hallways adds value to the business other than the hallways are now clean, right? So that's an example of an operational parameter. But of course, clean hallways has several layers of abstraction until you say, you know what, if a client visits and the hallways are clean, that's an intangible thing where it's perceptual value. So with that being said, not every single employee or every single vantage point is going to be hyper cognizant of every value stream, but where automation really shines and AI more broadly, or I guess automation is broad and AI in particular, is when you say, okay, what moves the top line or the bottom line of the business and work backwards from there. Why is billing so slow and expensive? Why is shipping so slow and expensive? Why are we behind on our taxes? Those kinds of things. And then the next thing that I already mentioned is automate tasks, not jobs. Remember, a job is what a human does, but tasks are what actually add business value. So a job is just a collection of tasks that someone is responsible for. But if you automate tasks, what you're doing is you're getting business value automatically, hence automation, whether or not there's a job that owns that particular task. Now, someone needs to be responsible. Someone needs, you need to update your RACI matrix. So responsible, accountable, um, consultant, and informed. You need to make sure that every time you automate a task, someone owns that process. One of the biggest things that happens is you go to automation or you go to infrastructure or you go to IT and they automate something for you, and then they say, okay, well, you own this now. IT doesn't own it because guess what? If it breaks, you're not going to know until you get gummed up and you're saying, why haven't these reports run in 3 weeks? It's like, because you didn't check it. You're not you need to take responsibility, whether you're in HR or legal or wherever you are, to not leave that with someone else. You say, I own that now. You can build the automation for me, but the automation engineer should not be the one who owns it unless they are the ones consuming it as well. Now, ownership can mean different things because obviously, if I build it on my server, then I own it and I'm responsible for maintaining it. But at the same time, you know what? If I'm not required to monitor that or monitor the quality of it, you need to tell me if it breaks. So that's what I mean by responsible. Another mentality that you can have with this is empower employees with new tools. So a lot of people are afraid of automating jobs away or whatever else, but honestly, the best thing that you can do, and this is what I had done as an automation engineer, is you just give people new tools so that they can do their job better, faster, cheaper, or safer. And a subset of that is things like more consistent. I would put that under better, where you have AI that will do it, check all the boxes for you and make sure that the report is correct or whatever kind of empowerment is there. But again, like I said earlier, putting tools in the hands of your end users or your clients or your customers, whoever it happens to be, if you empower them with automation and AI augmentation, they're going to love you for it, because they're like, wow, this thing is so great. I couldn't live without it anymore. Next is measure everything. Measure everything in time saved. That is the entire purpose of automation, is how many man hours would it have taken to do it without the automation or without the AI. Next is, what are the deliverables? So a deliverable is another term for an outcome. Whether you're in the marketing department and a deliverable is a blog post or an image or a video or a meme or whatever, that's an example of a deliverable. It's also an outcome. Now, the business outcome is not just the artifact, but it's the fact that it gets out there and it gets views and it gets clicks or it gets conversions or that sort of thing. But so then you say, okay, well, what's my deliverable here? Is my deliverable, a tax form? Is my deliverable a report? Is my deliverable, what is it that I'm responsible for? And can I automate that in whole or in part? Another way to do this is look for inputs and outputs. So the input is, what is everything that goes into a particular task or value stream? Whether that is knowledge, whether that's data, whether it's money, whatever it happens to be, there's all kinds of inputs that go into business processes for every department. And then there's an output, which is the final result. Whether, in my case as an infrastructure engineer, is, server gets built or application gets online or, downtime doesn't increase. Ideally, downtime decreases over time. That's a good example of an output. So measure those and you say, okay, connecting the input to the output, is there anything we can automate between those? Or can we automate value chains where you have the output of automation goes into the input, and then there's input output automation. So you have input automation output, and then that output goes to another input automation output. The more you can chain those things together, and of course, they say, humans in the loop and validation and that sort of thing. That's fine. But the more you can create those automated value chains, the faster that'll go through and the faster you can realize that business value. And then finally, automate parts or whole. Now, some people might say, oh, well, it doesn't count if you only automate part of it, but that's not true. If you can automate a good chunk of a task or a good chunk of an outcome, that still counts because you're still going to learn, and you're also staged to finish automating it when something changes. The AI is going to get better. You're going to learn something new. You're going to replace a platform with something that has a better API. Something will change, and so that partial automation will transform into a full automation eventually. Maybe. Doesn't always happen, but you're halfway there. And often when you've automated the hard parts, there might be one last thing that you just can't automate because it's too variable or it's too difficult. You know, you might have to wait on approvals, or maybe, someone says ServiceNow, we're never going to integrate that, so you're on your own. Sometimes you run into those kinds of problems where someone is just not going to cooperate. But guess what? People don't stay at jobs forever. So then someone new comes in on your ServiceNow team or your automation team or on another your cybersecurity team, and they're like, "Yeah, we're willing to work with you to get that automation finished." So then you can automate the whole thing. Now, that was a whirlwind, and what we're going to do then is after. So I'm telling you what we're going to do for the workshop, and we'll revisit this slide before we do the workshop. But I want to give you a preview for the workshop. We're going to break you into groups of 3 or 4 because I want to make sure that there's enough crosstalk so that you can kind of socialize these ideas with each other. First, discuss the AVID lifecycle. Just make sure you understand it, or ask questions of your smaller groups. The biggest thing you can do is look for bottlenecks and opportunities. So what are the bottlenecks in whatever you're responsible for, whatever it happens to be? So a bottleneck is where money, time, effort, manpower, talent, expertise, where one of those is a constraining factor, and you say, can we use AI or automation to alleviate that bottleneck? And then the opportunity is just stuff that you've got laying on the table, stuff that you know that could be automated, something that you know that someone else has automated, and you say, why aren't we automating this? And then look at the measurable throughput benefits. So in your groups, I want you to say like, and challenge each other. Is that worth automating? What is the expected return on investment for that automation? And is there something better, or is it justified? And now, of course, we can't actually implement solutions in workshop, but hypothetically, once you go home today or back to work, you can implement some of these things. Or if you have already implemented something, share it with your group. Now, with that being said, I will stop. Let's go to the open discussion. So it can be, if you have questions for me, if you have stories you want to share, whatever it happens to be, let's get started. So I see that there's a few questions in chat already, so I guess I'll start by going over that. Let's see. Salesforce just made this last week. Thanks. Yep. Do 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 do. Here we go, my friend. I think these are mostly stories. Okay. All right. So, who's got questions, comments, stories, anything that they want to share or discuss regarding this automation cycle?
Well, I'll take the first one. Dave, I want to say appreciate you. You were very breath of fresh air. And the guest host today, and I appreciate you. I just joined First Movers late August. I was in the blue collar land and work. I was always in the business as a CEO of my father's company and my trucking company and real estate company. 2012, I left and left my business and figure out what's next, and that's the global markets. So I can see with this automation, it's going to assist me tremendously in the global markets.
Yeah. I'm curious, what stands out to you immediately as going to be helpful in the market?
I've been able to create my avatar to post on to LinkedIn as you've been putting on the group board there, and also scanning the International Bank Federal Reserve, IMF, and all 190 Federal Reserves, and then of course IMF, and then of course what's the other one? Oh, Bank of myself. Yes, that
Yeah.
one.
So are you thinking of automating like a data pipeline, like an ETL, like extract, transform, load pipeline to just pull data, or are you going to be reading reports? What are your targets there for automation?
Both right there, for data and also read reports.
Okay, excellent. That sounds pretty good. That sounds like a pretty good start. Um, yeah. Does anyone have any reactions or thoughts based on what Charles just shared?
I actually, I can't say that I do trade in full time, obviously, but just from like my experience, I know that a lot of the valuable information that traders need are not just like technical analysis, it's a lot of that fundamentals, knowing when certain market shifts, or if it's like I guess like employment data or if interest rates go up and down or whatnot. Um, I would just say, start with that, just like the fundamentals or like one particular thing. That's like where my mind is at. Like if you could just pick one thing that is consistently affecting the market on a regular basis that you could like focus from there. That's where my thought process is. So you're not just looking for when there's like a wild card event or war breaks out, like when war conflict tends to arise in certain regions, like gold is always going up, right? But if there's something a little bit more consistent that you could get a lot more active data on a much more regular basis, I would my thought process is like, you start with something simple like that.
Yeah.
Whatever is consistent sources of data.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Um, so for anyone that has their hands up, um, are you for people that are responding to Charles' story, if you got your hand up or you want to participate, go ahead one at a time. Um, but then if you have your own story, we'll get to you after we finish talking about, trading and markets and stuff. So I know Dominico and Wayne and Tompkins had your hands up. Are you replying to Charles? Any of you guys, or are you waiting for the next?
Wait,
Yes,
I'm waiting.
Okay.
yes, I'm responding to Charles.
All right, go ahead. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm a trader. That's what I do for my that's my day job per se.
Cool.
And so I have you know, I have 4 full-time people that watch the markets for me. And so like making their lives easier is really important. You know what I mean? So, I trade futures, which there's about 100 different futures that I pay attention to. I do some options, and then I do um, Forex, which there's 30 something pair, right? So, like it's a lot, even when like the people are on, like, and they watch the market 24 hours for me, but like giving them tools causes them to be more successful with me. So the automation part is literally to like make their jobs easier. So I like kind of going in with him and with you, but and also like there's certain days that like we do really well. And so like, we track where we make the most money. So
Mm-hmm.
automation tools aren't just for like, okay, automate tasks, but okay, where do we perform the best? And so we know where we perform the best. We know which day we made, we made over $3 million in our best year. We know which days they are. So now it's like data is giving us the analysis.
Yep.
So on top of just like knowing, like I'm a technical analysis guy. I hate fundamentals, but you ask fundamental guys, they hate technical analysis. So it's like it's which religion you believe in the most. But the tools that you use are just like infinite. And like, a lot of times, I think the best thing you can ever ask chat is like, what am I missing? Because a
Yep.
lot of times, as brilliant as you are, and I'm pretty damn brilliant, and my team is really brilliant too. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, one of my team members is more brilliant than I am by a lot. And as brilliant as we are as a collective and even individually, like we still have massive blind spots. So, you know what I mean? A lot of times asking what the blind spots are and getting feedback from that. And a lot of times it's like, it's delusional, it's hallucination, but a lot of times it gives us empirical data that we can then analyze, right?
Yep.
So, the automation part is like, can be for hard data, but it also can be for either soft data or unknown data as well. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and you can run like, like I do, like one of the things I did is I run tests on 100 years of data, and I do that automated through an AI program that I built. You know what I mean? So instead of sitting to buy a computer and hitting buttons every couple hours, or staff hitting buttons every couple hours, now it's completely automated. So like, you can automate automated processes also. So instead of, it's all semi-automated, now it's completely automated.
There you go. Yeah, so that sounds like that automated, testing of theories over 100 years of data. How much time do you think that saves you every time that runs?
Honestly, like every single time I run that, it used to take me between 3 and 7 months to run the
Okay.
same. Now I'm running it in 2 or 3 days,
There
4
you
days.
go. So you're saving yourself probably literally 100x almost.
1000x. So it's a
Yeah.
lot more. When I say 6 or 7 months, it would take like, someone doing it like 4 hours a day times 7 months. You figure that out. Now I do it in 3 or 4 days, like hitting a button.
There you go. So now I would challenge you, taking what you learned there, is there something else that you can automate next that is something that would be, cyclical, repeated, something that could be
I
really
mean,
high value?
like for me right now, so I'm building an actual trading platform and then I'm gonna tokenize it, kind of like Binance. And so like we have a sales team that we're building founders with, and we are doing a lot of manual tasks. So this week I have dedicated to getting all my testimonials together because I have like 10,000 hours of videos and training. So I'm going through all that stuff now. But after I get that done this week, my next week process will be how the hell to, streamline, which is really easy with Go High Level and all kinds of, NHN tools that have tons of them that automate the marketing process to limit my communication time with other people.
There you
That's
go.
my, that's my next play because I got, 3,800 people on my telephone. I got like, I don't know, 8 or 9,000 personal contacts. So it's like, I have this huge database that's being unused completely, and I'm not even reaching out to, I'm reaching out to pennies when I have tens of thousands. So
There you go. I would say that, yeah, that's an example of opportunity that you have just laying on the table, because you
yes,
you combine that data, all those contacts with automation, and you can have, I mean, you can have fully automated email conversations with them if you want.
yeah, or talk to the ones that I want to that are interested.
Yeah,
I I had $100,000 day today already. It's pretty early my time. It's 11:50, so it's a good like
nice.
from the marketing stuff I have, so that's good. But I could do 1 million, I think, if I had everything automated. Then I'm only talking to people who are excited to be founders with me in my company. So
Yeah, yeah, use it to pre-screen and pre-sort folks. There you go.
thank you
Um,
so much. I love these things, by the way.
great. Glad to hear it. Okay, so on the topic of markets, trading, finance automation, do we have any other questions, comments, feedback, or do we want to move to the next topic? I see there's still a couple people with their hands up. I know Domenico, you said you have a different topic. Mucha, is this on this topic or a different topic? Also, you're muted. We can't hear you.
It's a different topic, David.
Okay. Thank you for that. Domenico, let's hear what you've got on what your topic is.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'm trying to automate almost everything. And I started, January, February, March, around that time. Anything I find that could be automated, I'm going for it. Now, well, basically, I'm a web developer first. So I have a small business as a web developer. And I made a website for an organization here. It's a small town, I guess. And there's 150 businesses, and uh, the economic development of the area. So they have the whole database of all the businesses. Each business gives them their data, like what they want to post on the website. So I created an AI that scrapes each business's information, and then another AI that creates a sales pitch according to everything they have online and what I offer. And it's like a personalized sales pitch for each one of them. I'm gonna try to launch that this month, so I'm gonna try to get a bunch of leads from that. Yeah, then the whole email thing back and forth. It takes time to get it set up and going, but I'm hoping once it's launched, it'll bring in clients or leads. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what have you already automated? You said that you're trying to automate everything. So what's been your biggest success in terms of time saved so far?
Uh, I tried little things like accounting, where I would feed the AI invoices, and it would like classify them and put them in an Excel sheet. Little things like that. And basically, I'm working on a SaaS platform that will be an interface for businesses where they can practically just talk to the AI and it'll start developing the automation in the background or pulling up data that they're looking for. So like no need for a keyboard really, unless you want to clarify something that's not coming out right. And
There you
also I'm trying to do it in French because there's a niche in French that's not being tackled by the big companies here in Quebec. So yeah, that's
got it. Yeah. I mean, with AI, the translation should be pretty straightforward, right?
yeah, it is. But there's also all the little details like Quebec laws and Canadians
Mm,
laws and little things like that that I'm trying to tackle at the same time. So to make it easier for little businesses here.
got it.
And yeah.
What are the biggest bottlenecks or constraints or limitations are you finding in automation? Like what isn't working?
Right now, I'm worried about security.
Okay.
Like prompt injections, a lot of hackers, like the malicious intent and trying to. I'm looking into that, trying to find ways to counter it. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. It's all in planning. So yeah, I'm waiting for a grant from the government of Quebec because they're interested in the project. So we'll see where that goes. There's a lot of moving pieces right now. Nothing's kind of official. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Do we have any questions or reactions for Domenico, sorry.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel. It's great to have you live.
Yeah, thanks. Glad you're here.
Hey, I
Um,
actually, because I do the same thing. Like what I heard is like I do everything all at once, and I am the expert at trying to take on too much stuff. And like, how important is it in automation? And people can smack me too. I mean, I got a big ego, but I love being smacked because it keeps me humble. But like, in terms of like, how do I focus so I make the most amount of automation if I am kind of all over the place? Because I heard all over the place on that last communication. And how could like he focus on something that's really important but makes the most amount of impact? What's that one thing?
was that a question for me or Domenico?
Yes.
That's
That's a light tap for Domenico to see if he can communicate. What's the one
um,
most place that you can make the biggest difference? Because it sounds like you have 1,000 projects, and I'm like that too. I love
I
more
do,
is
but
better.
yeah. I mean, I'm always like that. Ideas aren't a problem. There's ideas. I have like 5 ideas a day or more. And it's like, I just have to, right now, I'm trying to focus on one aspect and get it done. So that way I could maybe start selling that and grow from there. Choosing the one I'm going to launch first is, it's a challenge. But yeah, I think first is use everything I want to do for other companies, other businesses. I'll offer later. Do them first for my own business. Get things rolling. Right now, I'm gonna try to launch the leads so I could get more work coming in the web development side. Use that money to bootstrap my automation and AI idea.
Yeah.
Next, yeah, next, I'm not sure what the next thing probably would be, but I guess with time I'll see where the needs are.
So I would what my kind of key heuristics is one, feasibility, and two, ROI. So you can list it all out and say, what is the most automatable thing on my list? Sometimes it's worth it to just do that and it usually it's harder than you think it's going to be, but then you learn. And then that expands your feasibility. And then ROI is just what's going to pay the most, whether it is saving me time, saving me money, extending my reach. So you can kind of prioritize based on that, and having a bunch of ideas is great. That was a good add-in. I think Tompkins. Yeah, Tompkins. Um, I think Martin has been waiting. So if we have no other reactions or questions for Domenico, Martin, you've been waiting patiently. What you got? And you're muted in case you're talking.
Yeah, I feel like a noob here. So I asked Chat LM to craft something to ask you according to what you sent me in that email, or the other guy, and that's what he came up with. So I'm way out of your league right here.
No worries. Got anything? Or this was sorry, this was your goal is to turn the 2.5-hour weekly listing sprint into a 30-minute workflow. Is that the question
Yes.
you're referring to?
I guess, yes. Pretty much I've been doing all these things with chat, with the AIs. And
laundry room.
Hey,
Just,
Bill, can we mute Bill just real quick? You got some
Yeah.
background noise.
Yeah, I'm muting them. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Martin.
so I got a commercial listing and I've been doing research on it and AI and there's things that I've been doing, I guess, for the last couple of weeks. That I wanted to automate. I mean that's what the thing gave me. So
Yeah. So all right, so let's start with what are the inputs to this the listing sprint, because I'm not familiar with that business process at all.
I'm not sure, right? Well, it's a 1.45. It's an acre. It's an
Okay.
acre in a zone where there's a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, there's a Cane's, there's an Aldi's right next, and they're building a Take 5 oil change place right next to the building.
Okay.
So I'm about to list this property, and there's certain things that I've been doing in the AI, and pretty much that's what it told me I needed in general.
So
I'm kind of left blank after what those guys talk about right now.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. So you say you're listing this property.
Yeah.
Are you coming at it from the perspective of like real estate agent, or are you the owner?
I'm their agent. I'm the
Okay.
agent. Yes.
Got it. Okay, so what goes into the process of listing it that is time consuming?
I guess it was the research, but I mean the AI bots have done most of that for me.
Okay.
And I've cross-checked, the amounts that it's giving me. And it's you don't know about this. That's kind of
That's all right. We're here to learn. There's part of a job like mine, especially with addressing clients on businesses I've never worked with, is figuring out what the process is. So it's fine that I don't know. You can teach me what you do, and we can figure out what you need next. So from an automation perspective, let me just kind of turn it around a little bit. What are some things about listing that you do every time that are time consuming? That can be a good way to target an automation.
Yes. Today I had to go there. Well, no, that can't be automated. It's I got to go do it myself. So
Right.
that's taking pictures. Well, I had a photographer there today, and I went and took pictures and video myself. But what was most important, I guess, that I feel I need to do with this is find who I need to talk to. I need to talk to national chains who can put a business there. An example would be like a car wash.
Got it.
Yeah, so the lot is kind of built for a car wash. And
okay. Yeah. And that's this, like, kind of finding a potential client or a potential buyer. Is this something that you kind of got to do every time, that
yes,
research?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That sounds like a really good automation target. And the reason I say that is because the outcome is the same every time, where it's like, here's a property. So you've got an address or, GPS coordinates, and you've got all the, there's some stuff that you have to do. Like you said, you found a boundary. There's something you can't automate yet because you don't have a drone that can go take the pictures for you. But with once you have some of that critical information, location, price, what's it made for, then it's a matter of searching, right? So now you've got a search problem. So that would be a really good opportunity for automation, where you might set up a Zapier script. I think that's what you're referring to with the Zaps.
Yeah.
You might say the inputs might be, the address, the pictures, everything else that hand that to the automation, to the AI, and it'll go and whatever. I don't know what your process is to do the research, but you can automate as much of that research process as possible to then the deliverable to you, I imagine might be something like a list of potential, people that you can call or potential buyers. What is your process for the research and outreach? Is there something that you do next?
Well, I mean, I've done that. I've gone and asked ChatGPT to create a master prompt to find the people that would likely, well, pretty much the people in the purchasing departments of this big company who I need to contact.
Okay,
Yeah, and it gave me a list. So that's pretty much what it's done right now.
cool. So you've already had some success with partial automation there.
Yes.
Very
Well, I
cool.
mean, not automation. I didn't automate anything. I just went to it myself and asked it, and then kept talking to it till it gave me what I wanted.
Okay. So then the next thing would be look at that process that you went through manually with ChatGPT and then try and abstract that out so that you could automate it with a workflow.
Okay,
Yep. Does that make sense?
it does.
Cool.
It
Very cool.
does.
That's a great use case. Um, yeah, I think Mucha is next. You've been waiting pretty patient. Oh, Tompkins, do you have a reaction or question for Martin?
No, I do have a statement as if you can define like which part of that like you want to like to get the listing or to get the buyers. I mean, really define like I'm gonna ask a question later, but if we can define which side that he wants, what I mean, if it is the process of finding the people or finding the buyers and like, pick one, start there. Secondly, go to the next process. So you process finding the properties that could be for sale, or do you focus on buyers? But I mean, like I think you can do one and then immediately start the second.
Yeah.
Because process for both. And like I know like one of my best friends and one of our founders is like one of the best realtors in the country. And like he does a lot of outreach to other CRM would be a pretty good one because he does a lot of outreach to existing realtors. He gets both listings and he gets buyers from other realtors because he's so good at what he does. You know what I mean? But I mean, even you're just starting out, like if just to find buyers and create relationships with some of the best realtors in the area, both automated through a CRM as well as that's a great tactic he's used. I mean, he's been doing it for like tens of years though, so it takes a little bit of time, but you can start the automation process today.
There you go.
Okay.
Just throwing some stuff out there for him. Thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks for
definitely.
sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, good ideas. All right. Mucha, I think you got the next topic. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Yeah, firstly, thank you so much, you guys. You just do fantastic stuff, Josh. You're always in there, and it's great. It's amazing. And Dave, actually, just very quickly, I'm currently doing some certification as a chief AI officer on the back of your YouTube video about a year or a bit ago. So I've had a total change in career and reskilling on the back of that vid. So thank you for that.
Yeah, congratulations.
No,
I have
appreciate
a quick question is what's been the most interesting or challenging aspect of pivoting to become a chief AI officer?
So it's sort of twofold, if you like. I've become this voice for the C-suites to say to them, listen, hire from within. There's someone in your organization because there's this whole in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man's king, and you're going to go and pay a lot of money for somebody who probably just started learning this stuff 6 months before, but doesn't understand your business strategy, doesn't understand the company culture, doesn't understand the relationship between the CFO and the CEO and the CIO and the CPTO. So you've got a superstar somewhere in there. So what I've tried to do is go in there almost like an interim chief AI officer, just to say, listen, let's bridge that gap, but your hire is there. Now, some organizations, like what you said, that who've got these deep pockets and stuff, they may go and get a superstar somewhere out there, but the majority of them with the C-suites, they just need to be aligned on it. And that video, honestly, it was ridiculously good.
Good. Well, I'm glad. Thanks for that feedback. Especially, sometimes I don't get to see the impact that the work has. So thanks for that.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you
Yeah, so
want to
from an
talk about
automation
automation? Yeah, go
standpoint,
for it.
so what I'm doing now, it's the equivalent of doing a bridge job and flipping burgers, if you like, while I'm studying the chief AI officer stuff. And I've gotten into doing a few bits and pieces with job boards. And with the 1 and 2 job boards that I've got, I really just don't want to have the kind of job board where, you go to LinkedIn and you click apply and it expired 3 days ago. So every day, quite literally, I spend about 90 minutes going to a handful of platforms and copying and pasting the job and then putting it on the job board, because at least I know they're quality leads. At least I know they're live leads. But literally, I mean, I'm spending 90 minutes a day doing this.
Oh boy, yeah. No, the kind of thing where it's every day and it's tedious, and it's the same exact task, that is a prime candidate for automation. So I'm curious, have you tried automating it yet?
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, I look at some of these vids that you guys have there, and they read like X Files to me, But what I'm very good at doing, though, Dave, is once I have a bona fide task, then it makes sense, and then it's worth sitting down and closing the room and not coming out till I figure it out. So more than anything, from hearing from all my colleagues here and from you guys as well, it sounds like it is absolutely possible to automate that process. So my next question is just, is it video number 1, module 3? Just tell me where to go and I'll lock myself in the room and I'll do it. But I needed that assurance that you can absolutely, as near as damn it, automate this, something like this.
Oh yeah, you can automate it 8 ways from Sunday. Let me just off the top of my head, there's a few approaches that you can use. So one is particularly with generative AI now, you can automate the screen itself. You can probably use either screen capture or screenshots because the AI can read the images.
Yeah.
There's Operator now, which uses a computer. So you could try the Operator approach. So Operator is OpenAI's agentic tool. So that you might be able to just say, go do this, give it a well-defined task, and say, go to this site, find these jobs, transcribe them, or save them to file or whatever. And you can break it down into parts. This is the thing, because you have a data source, and then you have a data target, right? So you don't have to do it all at once. What I tend to do, one of the things that'll save you a lot of time is stage it. So step 1 is getting the data, and then step 2 is doing something with the data. So those can be 2 discrete processes. Does that make sense? But yeah, so then there's the older school version, which is just web scraping. So you could use the agentic stuff if you wanted to do AI first. I would try Operator. But if that doesn't work, or if you want to do something that you run on your computer or a cloud server that you own, then you can try just good old-fashioned web scraping. So you can look up the term web scraping, or ETL, which is extract, transform, load. So in data science and machine learning, the specific behavior that you're trying to achieve here is ETL. So ETL is a very well-established discipline. It's very old, and of course, generative AI gives you new capabilities, which is, it's like, hey, I just pulled the HTML or the XML or whatever. Now just translate this into JSON for me, or clean it up for me, or whatever. And of course, the chatbot can help you write the code to scrape it as well. One thing to keep in mind is many websites block scrapers, so you might get your IP blocked if they don't like that, which is where agentic platforms might be better, because then they're using a real browser, might scoot around it. So those are just a few ideas, but really what you're talking about is web scraping and ETL, very, very well established disciplines and practices. So I would start there.
Okay, interesting, and it's great because obviously I want to be the guinea pig for this, but I'm in a private Facebook group of fellow job board owners, and the same sort of tedious stuff keeps kicking in, because you want to be prolific with having fresh leads every day, but secondly, you don't want the word to come out that these are pants things. You click them on, they're expired, or they're this and that and stuff like that. So this sounds awesome, and like I said, when you've got a bona fide project to get on with, it's worth then rolling up your sleeves and getting on with it. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think about it this way, 90 minutes a day, if you can make that 0, that adds up to what, 3 hours every other day? So
Yeah.
six,
Mhm.
7.5 hours a week.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
huge.
That's a work day.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no.
a whole day every week that you'll get back, and that's every week, so that's 4 days a month, right? And then it just multiplies out, and then as you get better at it, not only does that expand your ability to automate things, you'll say, what else can I automate? So definitely start
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Excellent.
Really appreciate it. Thanks again, guys. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, you're quite welcome.
Good.
All right, Jody, you got a new topic or a reaction to Mucha here?
New topic.
Yeah, go for it. What you got?
Yeah, so I am pulling a scorecard. So I pull a list of user activity for our client accounts who are doing LinkedIn outreach and email automation. So we pull out a report that shows their activity and their accounts per day across all those different activities their account may have taken.
Mm-hmm.
I throw it into a pivot table, source it to create our scorecard by client. And then I have to manually go back into the system it's pulling from to match out different labels, like what status account they're at, like if they're a managed account versus a standard account. And then looking at the data, decide who's at risk for not meeting the minimum benchmarks. So I
Mm-hmm.
know I can automate all of this. I'm just looking for the best way to approach and do that. They do have an API connection that I can use. So I've been told that I've outlined my steps. I've outlined the use case because it takes about 2 hours each week to prep this report, and then another hour or two to assess which ones are at risk that we need to go into their user accounts and take a closer look at. So I'm trying to automate the front part so we can spend the majority of the time where we really need it, which is going in and looking at solutions for the accounts, and then creating tickets in HubSpot for those with action items that need to be actioned.
Got it. Let me ask a question to get a little bit more context.
Sure.
Are you like supervising these accounts for marketing purposes? Is that what they hire you for?
So it's a SaaS company that's
Okay,
providing this tool to their clients.
got it.
I'm coming in, I am serving two roles. One, I'm helping them with operations to streamline their processes to identify client accounts that are at risk so that they don't lose the subscriptions.
Got it.
I'm also
Okay,
working with at-risk accounts to help them update their messaging, and like putting my marketing hat on and creating better strategies and messaging so they can get better results and not be at risk anymore.
got it. Okay, so the primary business outcome is reduced churn. Is that kind of
Yes.
okay, got it. And so it sounds like the inputs that you got, the primary input is telemetry from this SaaS platform? Like is that the scorecard reports that you were talking about? Like the data coming
Yeah,
from
it
LinkedIn?
basically gives us an activity report per day per user, and then I consolidate that into a 30-day roll-up and then also a 7-day roll-up to just look at the aggregate of activity per user.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not meeting the benchmark activity, like 800 connection requests on LinkedIn per month or 200 per week,
Got it.
that's kind of a red flag.
Okay.
If there's 0 invites or if their invites are low, then that would be a trigger that maybe a campaign got turned off or they're disconnected and not sending requests.
Okay. And the what format is this data in these reports that you're getting? Is it just raw data like CSVs or something
Yeah.
like that? Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
So in that case, my intuition, the way that I would approach this based on the problem that you outlined is you probably don't need to go to a pivot table because that's something that you're probably doing manually. Because keep in mind that generative AI, one, tools like Gemini have gigantic context windows. Two, they all can understand code and data naturally.
Mhm.
So what you can probably do is just give it the raw data and say, hey, I want you to do some stuff with this.
Yes.
And then you say, so I would do some experiments and say, what I'm trying to do is retain accounts, and here's the red flags. Look at the data for me, and you can probably automate it relatively simply. How much data are you looking at per cycle or report
It's about yesterday's was about 14,000 rows of data
from just one CSV?
from one CSV, and that's the equivalent for about 120 clients.
Okay, so you can take that 14,000 rows and split it out into 120 individual instances because
Hmm.
you can look at it on a per, per client or per account basis. That's so I would approach it that way by splitting it out because then one, you have smaller bits of data. And one of the reason that I have that is one of the rules of thumb is you don't want to confuse the AI, because if it's looking at too much data, where it's like, oh, it might get confused and say, assume that it's all one account or that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
the rule of thumb is give it all the information that it needs and no more for a given task. And so then probably what I would do is go through and assign, have it split out the each account, and then do your process to score each account. And then, how do you score it right now, actually? I don't want to make any assumptions.
So we have benchmarks for the different activities of connection requests sent, emails sent, percentage accepted. Um, so there's, excuse me, set volumes um, that we're looking at as an initial indicator. But then we also have, so there's a second set of data that comes in that's not in the CSV file that we can export from their system, which is um, any flags of, is the account disconnected? Are there zero campaigns running? Are they out of prospects? So those are flags that the system uh, has inside of it that does not get included in their natural CSV export. So that's where I was trying to figure out through the API connection if it can get additional details that aren't included in the CSV export that they give us access to as a white label partner.
Got it. Yeah, that can definitely throw a wrench in it. So this might be a candidate for partial automation or where you manually load in one component. But I think breaking it into smaller parts, because starting with a gigantic CSV is solid gold. And I know you said you have to correlate it to previous data as well. Um,
Yes.
but again, these tools can munge that data automatically. So I think you're in a very strong position, at least to build a tool for yourself,
Mhm.
to automate this as much as possible and really kind of surface, who are the most at risk accounts. Um, do you have does what I have said, has that offered clarity? Do you have clarifying questions? Because in my mind, I kind of see a clear path forward to you, but I want to make sure that you understand what I think that I'm saying.
I don't see, so um, if I just take the CSV data and just upload that for an agent to look at and evaluate, that's only one piece. It doesn't give me the piece that includes the triggers that the system is giving us, which are just as important. So there's like a
Right.
baseline activity scorecard, but then there's also triggers that need to be monitored. Um, and at the end of the day, the output that we're looking for is a combined sheet or report that shows all 120 clients and what's their status, like what is their score, and then of those, which ones are red flagged that we need to have support look into like this week, and we do that every week. So it's
Yeah.
like breaking them out into individual reports, like, okay, well, that's great but we also don't, then it all needs to come back in together to a consolidated report as a reviewed, and that's why I kind of call it a scorecard of like, it's all in one. I can look at at one line item for each client, and then across the board, it shows what's their 30-day review numbers,
Hmm.
what's their 7-day review numbers, are there any flags on the account? And then I have just been sorting the data of, okay, let's show me everybody who's got disconnected accounts. Okay, now let's create our HubSpot tasks for that. Um, Anyone who's not meeting their benchmarks, okay, I need a task for myself to schedule meetings with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I see where I need to clarify. So when I said break it out into individual accounts, that is
Mhm.
just an intermediate processing step.
Okay.
So then once you have the output of that processing step, so all the inputs kind of get into, a pile, break it apart so that you enumerate each account, go through each account, and then have that output stored, and then you can that compressed output that is the aggregate, maybe not aggregate is not the right word, but the accumulated outputs for each client or each account, put that back together and then use the AI to generate a report. And I would not do it manually via like Chat GPT. You should start using the API for this kind of thing. So then all you're doing is kicking off an automation, a script, whether it's Zapier or a Python script that you're running locally or
Mhm.
something like that. So then you upload the data to where your automation can get to it. So you got the CSV, and it sounds like you got another set of reports that are really important. Scrape
But
all.
those reports aren't exportable, which is where so that's why I was wondering, like, do I set up an agent to log in as me to review the admin screen and pull that data?
Mm,
Or is that
yeah.
where like the API connection might have access to the labels or the triggers that are in the system? Because that's not currently an available export of data.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would start with the API, because that's the programmatic, that's the appropriate direction if it works. And if it's not immediately available, since you're working with a white label vendor,
Hmm.
I would, you could talk to them and say, hey, this is what I need. Is it something that you can expose via API? It might be easy for them, but many vendors, particularly if you've got a good relationship with them and however their software is built, it might not be that difficult of an opportunity for them to present that to you, or it might already be available even if it's not documented. So I would definitely start there.
Okay. And then you're suggesting like setting it up as more of a workflow, because I was curious, especially with the recent update with ChatGPT and their available agents, if this was something that could run through there versus having to build out separated workflows.
I do not know off the top of my head, but there is a good way to find out, is to go try and see if it works.
Okay.
And if it works, great, you figured it out. And if it doesn't, then you found a limit and you say it doesn't work yet. And that is now tribal knowledge that you and your team possess, to say, okay, we can try again, when X, Y, or Z gets updated.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right, we are running long on time, so I did see that there was one question that Domenico had. I'll answer that question, but then I want to get to the workshop section. So Domenico's question is, where is the line, and this is a really good question, where is the line between when it's worth using AI and automation versus when to use traditional ways to automate? And this is a great question, and I will say, if traditional works and it is the fastest and most efficient way of doing it, then use traditional. So traditional would be, like using a combination of regex and Python and Zapier and that sort of thing. If the system is built for that, then use it. However, where I would, going back to, my days as an automation engineer, if you have to, if the AI gives you a new capability, so that's one thing, is a fundamentally new capability, the ability to instance, build an agent that can read screens or read images, that, if the AI is the only thing that can do it, use the AI. And the other case is if the AI can do something better than a traditional thing. So what I mean by traditional is, when I was building automation that would automatically deploy servers for my engineers, I had to read server manifests, which had a somewhat standardized format. It was a YAML format, but whatever the server needed, it could change the number of CPUs that it needed. It could change the number of disks. It could change the number of network cards. It could change all kinds of settings. And so parsing that with just regex was not the best way to do it. So what I would have done today is say, translate this YAML file into JSON so then I can just deploy the thing. And that would have been just a single step with a language model. So in that case, it would have been so much easier to do it with the AI. So kind of a mental heuristic is say, whichever way is the easiest, whether traditional or with AI, for you mentally, whatever way is easier is probably could be the correct way. It's not always going to be the correct way. But one of the rules of thumb that I learned from collaborating with people at Microsoft was the AI. You should try the AI to do everything, because if the AI can do it in one step, great, just do it. Tokens are cheap, and the AI is pretty flexible. So those are some rules of thumb and some heuristics to use. So great question. Now I want to go to the breakout session. And it looks like we've got what? I think there's a few. How many humans do we have left? We got two note takers and then me and
Two,
Joshua. So I
three,
think
four,
we've got
five, six, seven.
11 people left.
Yeah. Just
All right.
about.
So let's do a few groups of 3 and then one group of 4. I am still live. Good. Actually looks like a couple of people dropped. Some folks
Yeah.
don't want to do the workshop section.
Yeah, we have a couple people always have a meeting to run off to. Like that, it's a consistent theme.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
So for anyone who wants to do the workshop, stick around. I'm gonna have Joshua put you into breakout rooms of 3 to 4.
Yeah.
And the key thing is talk through what you were thinking about automating, what you have tried to automate, and try and help each other to clarify. And there's a few things for this. You're going to be practicing talking about automation. That's the primary thing. You don't have to actually succeed here, but I want you to get used to thinking in terms of that automation feedback loop. So yeah, Joshua, if you want to go ahead and start getting
Yeah.
people ready for that. And I know some people are not gonna be might not be able to contribute. That's fine. That's why we're doing larger groups of 3 or
Yeah.
4. Or you don't have to stay in. We've been here for 90 minutes already, so you're welcome to drop. But I do want to give people an opportunity to try and talk through automation at a business level
Yeah.
or technical level, either or, with each other, because that'll be really good practice for how do we even talk about this.
Right. All right. So I have 3 breakout rooms here, so I'm gonna send that out now.
All right.
All
And
right.
we'll give everyone, since we're short on time, we'll just do 10 or 15 minutes. We'll check in, and then we'll use the next few minutes after that to get some insights.
All
So
right. Great.
see everyone in a little bit.
Yes.
Great. I think everyone's in their rooms now. Right.
Let's see if anyone's still here. There we go. Got
Yeah,
Bill.
we still have a couple people. We had
Okay.
like, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I honestly didn't think it would take up the whole 2 hours, but we had a lot of good questions.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, everyone's pretty. Yeah, I think even for like just the size of people that we have on a regular basis, people always have something in the back end burning in
It's
their mind.
it's like usually the first hour we do, the presentation of some sort
Yeah.
and discuss it a little bit. And then it seems like we go off into these deep conversations. And I love that part because everybody's talking about things that they're really familiar with, and we learn a lot from each other that way.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
All right. I think these are the last of the stronghold.
There we go. All
Yeah.
right. Welcome back, everyone. What I want to do is we'll end with a quick rapid fire. We'll give everyone 60 seconds each. Joshua, if you can run a timer for each.
Yeah.
And you don't need to take up the whole 60 seconds. But what I want to hear from everyone is just what's the biggest takeaway? What's the biggest thing you learned from this whole 2 hour session? And just share that pearl of wisdom that whether it's something that you realized or something that you learned or just the last thought of the day. And Tompkins, you'll go first because you're already unmuted, and then whoever's next will volunteer or voluntold you.
All right, go.
Well, what I learned today is like the format of the class. So I was telling Josh that I crushed my founders meeting this weekend, and you guys, I think you either outdid me or at least equaled me, or maybe even outdid me. It was really special how you had the engagement the whole time. So I learned some presentation, or like that's stuff to add to my repertoire. And then additionally, like how this was not this isn't throwing rocks at nobody, but it's like how unfocused I can be and how I can be idea man. And I really need to boil down and be one idea man, implement man, get automated man, and then I can go back into idea man again. And I have the same thing, so I spotted and got it. I'm not throwing rocks. I am Mr. I'm left and right brained, and yeah, so no rocks, but just real recognition that I do that so often, and it's good to spot when other people, and I'm not the only one.
There you go.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for sharing.
Also on minute. Awesome.
All right. Wayne, I'll voluntold you next because you're unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, a very valuable session for me because I validated that we're on the right track, and then got some great suggestions for next steps. So it was very, very productive for the project that we're working on.
Excellent. Great to hear. Anything else, Wayne?
No, I just really appreciate all you guys do and how we're able to be involved and we really are cutting edge. I mean, I consult with a group of startup companies and it's their biggest challenge is almost always with this group. They're wondering how to drive their business, how to drive marketing and sales, and AI can bring a lot to the table in that world right now. So
Excellent. Well, glad to hear. Thanks for the feedback. I guess we'll just go down the list now. Bill, what you got? What's your pearl of wisdom or key insight from today's session?
I think one of the things I really enjoyed about it is, the framework that you presented really gives me something to think about. I'm not in a position that I'm implementing anything right now. And I think I'm going to have to find something to do for myself because I'm retired and I don't work anywhere. And I would have all kinds of ideas if I was still supervising software development somewhere, because I would know some things that I could approach, right away. I'm really interested in the whole AI assisted coding. And I'm excited to look at 4.5, Claude 4.5 Sonnet and see how that works. But I think for me, the best thing that I got out of this was approach, like that framework. I think it will help me focus a little better.
There you go. Well,
Awesome.
thanks for that feedback. Charles, you're next. What's your key insight from today? If you're
You're
still
muted, bro.
there.
Yes, I really enjoyed with Bill and with Bill and Tompkins as well. We had a great Bill the collaborations about our choices and choice being with first mover.ai, folks like Lab. It's just life renovating, as I mentioned as well, about the hyperscalers of building theirs, and I figure we should be building ours as well.
Excellent. Yeah, that's powerful. That's good realization. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. Domenico, I think you're next.
Okay, so first thing, it was amazing to have you live with us. Yeah, it's awesome. Also, I got a lot of motivation from it because I feel like yes, after your presentation, I am on the right track. So I just keep going, and I just gotta keep doing that. What was also really fun was the discussion with everyone, our groups there, and I think we're all kind of looking for a way to visualize it as our clients. And I'm not a big fan of Steve Jobs, but I brought it up a couple times. I think one good way to view it is maybe like the cheap Steve Jobs way is look at it as the user and then worry about how to get it done, kind of
Yeah,
thing. So
I
yeah, I
like it.
think that's where I'm at.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. Glad you made it. Let's see, who's next? I think Jason, I think you're next. What's your key takeaway today?
Well, I think there's some reformation of one from the one idea man and the other from the framework and definitely the customer journey. I think that everything that I've been seeing and I shared with my group is spending more time on what my customer's journey is than just mine. My time is my time, but it's the customer that I really need. They need to be effective, efficient, and productive. Otherwise, I'm no use to them.
Right.
I think that really trying to be disciplined to implement one of my many idea strategies that I have and execute it and then win from it. I do have a question for you: Is do you find that it's execute to perfection or execute to improve?
Execute and move on. I never reach perfection. Iterate if you have time, but just get it, it has to work first. You can refine it later.
Cool. Thank
There
you.
you go. Excellent question. Jody, you're next. What you got? What was your takeaway?
I think mine ties into the last point you just made, which was, I've been doing these things manually. I've been finding better ways to shorten the process, but then trying to research the best way to automate it instead of just going in and playing and practicing and finding something that works. That there's not just one path to do it. And so if I play with it, I'll probably learn faster than trying to take yet another course or a training or a thing or tool to research and just start plugging it into one and then plugging it into another and see how far we can get. This group definitely shortcuts that process, but it's hard too because there's so many things that are coming every day, right?
Yep.
The tool is available to
yeah.
us change. So it's like I'm halfway down the road with one and they're like, oh wait, but maybe that might be easier. So it's just go to one to get there to make it better than what we've got today.
There
Because
you go.
I'm tired of pulling these darn reports.
Yep. That is called project-based learning, PBL. That's a
Yeah.
big thing. So
Yeah.
you do the project and you learn what you need to as you go. Yep. So
I like that.
good synthesis, good takeaway. Let's see, Martin, I think you're next. What's your key takeaway today? And you're muted also still.
Oh, well,
There you go.
I was gone for a big part of this session.
No worries. Just
No,
whatever your pearl of wisdom or key takeaway was for today.
I would say
I would say the what the what you said, of course, helped me with what I was asking, but also what the I forgot his name, what the feller said about networking and making those relationships to market my listing.
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, use what you got. If you've got something laying on the table, whether it's a, list of contacts, use it. Use it if you got it.
Yes. Yeah, great. And
Excellent.
also going to find
Yeah.
where the agents meet them. So
Yep. Yep.
that's it.
Thank you for sharing, Martin. Last one, I believe. I don't think I've missed anyone. Is Victor? What you got, Victor? What's your key takeaway today?
I just joined the last 5 minutes, so I didn't
Oh,
even
okay.
sorry, I can't contribute to that question.
No worries, no worries. Well, I think Joshua, do you record this? Are you going to share it so you can?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
definitely
cool.
going to be recorded. So if you want to drop your insights after going over this, Victor, could drop it in the community.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I gotta rewatch this. I literally didn't get to see
Yeah.
it.
No, I
I
hope
wanted
I
to
hope
be
you get a
here
lot out of
earlier.
it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you being here though, Gabe.
Definitely.
Yep. All right. Well, we are right at 4 o'clock. I don't know about y'all, but I'm good and cooked. I'm ready to go. So I'll let everyone go and thank y'all
I do
for
have
showing
one
up.
more question in 472 parts.
All right. I think I'll give you 30 seconds. Go. Fast as you can.
Have a great day, man. That's all.
Okay.
That's
That was a
good
great one. That's a great one.
All right. Well, that took less than 30 seconds. All right. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Thanks,
I'll
Dave.
see you in
All
the
right.
Appreciate
Thank you
streets.
very
See you on
much,
YouTube,
Dave.
Dave.
Thank you so
Everyone be
much.
well.
Joshua, appreciate you as always.
Yes, no problem, brother. You'll just look out for some more updates. We'll be adding some more stuff in the labs. We have 2 trainings coming up as well. One from Dave, that's in the that's going to be a training course, and one from Julia. So look out for those by the end of the day or tomorrow for the latest. All right.
Awesome.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
have a
you.
good one.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right.
Have a beautiful
Peace.
evening.
All right.